My name is Fiona Rose Ashbourne, and I turned 65 years old on January 14th, 2023, exactly 1 month before that text message arrived. I live alone in a 3-bedroom ranch house at 1247 Sycamore Drive in the suburbs of Sacramento, California. The house is paid off. It's been paid off since 2019, the year before my husband died. Terrence William Ashbourne passed away on March 23, 2020 at 4:47 in the afternoon. He was 67 years old. It was a Monday. I remember because Mondays were our grocery shopping days, and we never got to go that week. He had a massive heart attack in the garage while changing the oil in our 2006 Honda Accord. By the time the ambulance arrived, he was already gone. They wouldn't let me ride with him because of COVID protocols. I followed behind in our neighbor's car, and by the time I got to Mercy General Hospital, Terrence had been dead for 18 minutes. I never got to say goodbye. I never got to hold his hand. I never got to tell him one more time that he was the best thing that ever happened to me. The funeral was limited to 10 people. My son Dominic was there. Dominic Lawrence Ashbourne, 38 years old, my only child. But even at his own father's funeral, there was distance in his eyes. He stood on the other side of the grave with his phone in his hand, checking messages while the pastor spoke. That should have been my first warning. But grief has a way of making you ignore things. You tell yourself, he's processing differently. He's busy. He's hurting too. You make excuses because the alternative, that your child doesn't care the way you need him to, is too painful to accept. Terrence and I went to Hawaii in June of 1982, right after we got married. I was 23 years old. He was 25. We saved for 2 years to afford that trip. $847.50 total, which felt like a fortune back then. We flew coach on a red-eye flight, shared a single carry-on suitcase, and stayed in a tiny studio in Waikiki that smelled like mildew and plumeria flowers. It was the happiest week of my life. We ate Spam musubi from a convenience store for breakfast. We rented snorkel gear for $3 a day and spent hours floating over coral reefs, holding hands underwater. Terrence got so sunburned on the second day that he had to wear a bed sheet like a cape for the rest of the week. I have a photograph of him standing on the beach at sunset, that white sheet draped over his red shoulders, grinning like an idiot. On our last night, we couldn't afford the hotel room for one more evening, so we slept on the beach. We spread out our towels, used our backpacks as pillows, and watched the stars until we fell asleep to the sound of waves. A security guard woke us up at 5 a.m. and told us we couldn't stay there, but by then the sun was rising and we didn't care. Terrence looked at me with sand in his hair and said, "Fee, when we have money someday, let's bring our whole family here. Let's show them what magic looks like." I said, "Deal." We shook on it, there on the beach with our shoes full of sand and our hearts full of promises. After Terrence died, I made that promise real. I opened a savings account on April 2nd, 2020, 10 days after his funeral, and I named it Hawaii Family Fund. The bank representative, a young woman named Jessica with a nose ring and kind eyes, asked me what I was saving for. I told her about Terrence, about our honeymoon, about the promise. She smiled and said, "That's beautiful. How much do you want to save?" I did the math in my head. Flights for 8 people, a villa for a week, car rentals, food, activities. I estimated $20,000. $25,000, I said, adding a buffer. Just to be safe. She set up automatic transfers, $50 every 2 weeks from my pension. It wasn't enough. Not by a long shot. So I found other ways. I sold Terrence's vintage record collection on eBay, $1,247.80. I sold his woodworking tools to a neighbor, $890. I sold my mother's china set that I never used, $456. I canceled our Netflix subscription, $15.99 saved per month. I canceled our landline phone, $42 saved per month. I stopped getting my hair done at the salon and learned to cut it myself with YouTube tutorials. $65 saved every 6 weeks. I started teaching English online to students in South Korea through a company called Global Talk Academy. 3 nights a week, from 9 p.m. to midnight, I sat at my kitchen table with a headset and a webcam, teaching pronunciation to teenagers on the other side of the world. They paid me $16.50 per hour. That was an extra $396 per month. I turned the thermostat down to 62 degrees in winter and wore 2 pairs of socks and Terrence's old flannel shirts. I stopped buying coffee at Starbucks. I stopped buying books. I used the library instead. I stopped buying birthday gifts for friends and made things by hand. Scarves, baked goods, framed photographs. Every single dollar I saved went into that account. By February 2023, 3 years and 10 months after I started, the balance was $21,847.50. It was enough. But while I was saving, something else was happening. Something I didn't see clearly until it was too late. My son got married in October of 2021, 18 months after his father died. Her name was Helena Marie Ashbourne, née Crawford. She was 31 years old, 12 years younger than Dominic. She was beautiful, tall and blonde with perfect teeth, and a way of smiling that made you feel like you'd just been looked over and found lacking. The wedding was small, only 40 guests. I wasn't involved in the planning. Helena said it was because they wanted to keep things simple and avoid too many opinions. I offered to help pay for the flowers. She said, "That's so sweet, Fiona, but we've got it covered." I should have noticed that she called me Fiona, not Mom, not even Mrs. Ashbourne, just Fiona. At the reception, I sat at a table in the back with Terrence's sister Grace and 2 of Dominic's cousins. The head table had 8 seats. Dominic, Helena, Helena's parents Patricia and Richard Thornberry, Helena's sister Celeste, Celeste's boyfriend, and 2 of Helena's closest friends. There was no seat for me at the head table. When I asked Dominic about it later, he said, "Mom, you understand, right? It's a symmetry thing. 4 from her side, 4 from mine. If we added you, it would be uneven." "But I'm your mother," I said. "I know, Mom, but you're okay, right? You're not upset?" And because I wanted him to be happy on his wedding day, I said, "No, sweetheart, I'm not upset." That was the first lie I told to keep the peace. The first year of their marriage, things seemed fine. Or at least I told myself they were fine. Helena was polite. She smiled when I visited. She thanked me for gifts. But there was always a distance, a slight coolness, like talking to someone through a pane of glass. At Thanksgiving 2021, Helena suggested hosting at her mother Patricia's house in Roseville, a sprawling 5-bedroom with a gourmet kitchen and a backyard that looked like something from a magazine. "It's just easier," Helena said. "More space, better kitchen, and Mom's been wanting to host." I said, "Of course, that sounds lovely." We went. I brought my cranberry sauce, Terrence's recipe, the one with fresh orange zest and a hint of cinnamon. I'd been making it for 37 years. It was a family favorite. When I arrived, Patricia was already pulling a dish of cranberry sauce from her refrigerator. It was from Whole Foods, still in the plastic container with the label on. "Oh, Fiona," Helena said when she saw mine. "You brought cranberry sauce too. How sweet." "We already have some, but we can put yours in the fridge in case we need extra." She put it in the back of the refrigerator. No one ate it. When I was leaving that night, it was still there, untouched. I took it home and threw it away. By early 2023, the exclusion had become systematic. Helena started hosting all the holidays: Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, Mother's Day. I was always invited, but I was always a guest, never a host. I would show up with a dish or a gift, and Helena would greet me with a polite smile and say things like, "Oh, you didn't have to bring anything," in a tone that suggested I should have known better than to try. The grandchildren, Emma Rose Ashbourne, age 7, and Lucas James Ashbourne, age 5, started calling Patricia Grandma and me Grandma Fiona, as if I needed a qualifier to distinguish me from the real grandmother. At Emma's 7th birthday party in June 2022, Helena hired a photographer. The photographer took pictures of everyone: the kids, the adults, the cake, the presents. At one point, Helena called out, "Let's get a family photo." Everyone gathered. Dominic, Helena, Emma, Lucas, Patricia, Richard, Celeste, and Celeste's new boyfriend, Ryan. 8 people. I stood off to the side with my paper plate and my plastic fork, watching. The photographer clicked away. Helena reviewed the photos on the camera's screen, nodding with satisfaction. Then she looked up, saw me standing there, and said brightly, "Oh, Fiona, do you want to jump in for one?" An afterthought. An addendum. I said, "No, that's okay. You all look perfect." Later that night, Helena posted the photo on Instagram with the caption, "Family is everything, #birthdaygirl, #blessed, #family first." I wasn't in it. I announced the Hawaii trip at Christmas dinner, December 25th, 2022. We were at Patricia's house again, 18 people this time, a full Thornberry Ashbourne gathering. I waited until after dessert, when everyone was relaxed and full. I stood up and tapped my glass with a spoon, the way Terrence used to do when he wanted to make a toast. "I have some exciting news," I said. Everyone looked at me. Dominic smiled. Helena's face was neutral. "As some of you know, Terrence and I went to Hawaii for our honeymoon many years ago. It was the most magical place we'd ever been. Before he passed, we always talked about bringing the whole family there someday. Well, I've been saving for a few years now, and I'm ready to make that happen." Emma gasped. Lucas said, "Hawaii? Like Moana?" "Yes, sweetheart, like Moana," I said, smiling. "I've booked a beautiful villa on the north shore of Oahu for 1 week in mid-February. 4 bedrooms right on the beach. I'm covering everything: flights, accommodations, car rentals, activities. All you have to do is show up." There was applause. Patricia looked surprised. Richard raised his glass. Celeste said, "Oh my God, that's amazing." Dominic walked over and hugged me. "Mom, that's so generous. Thank you." Helena stood up, smiling, and said, "Fiona, wow, that's really something. When did you book this?" "Last week," I said. "I wanted it to be a surprise." She glanced at Dominic, and something passed between them, a look I couldn't quite read, but it was gone in a second, replaced by her perfect smile. "Well," she said, "I guess we're going to Hawaii." Over the next 6 weeks, I threw myself into the details. I booked a 4-bedroom villa through a luxury rental company called Paradise Stays Hawaii. The property was called Lanikai Estate, a beachfront home at 58-137 Kamehameha Highway with floor-to-ceiling windows, a wraparound deck, and direct access to a private stretch of sand. The rental cost was $8,542 for 7 nights, February 10th through February 17th, 2023. I booked 8 round-trip flights from Sacramento International Airport to Honolulu International Airport on Hawaiian Airlines, departing February 10th at 10:45 a.m., returning February 17th at 8:30 p.m. The tickets cost $5,237.60 total, $654.70 per person. I reserved a wheelchair-accessible rental van from Alamo for the week, $453.80, because Patricia had mentioned in passing that her left knee acts up sometimes, and she might need extra support. I booked a private luau experience for 8 people, $720. I booked a snorkeling tour to Hanauma Bay, $560. I booked a sunset catamaran cruise, $640. I pre-ordered welcome baskets from a local company called Island Gifts and Grinds, 8 baskets with fresh pineapple, macadamia nuts, Hawaiian coffee, and chocolate-covered coconut, $184. Total cost so far, $16,337.40. I ordered custom t-shirts from a website called FamilyTees.com. 8 shirts, teal blue with white text that said Ashbourne Ohana 2023, and a small plumeria flower graphic. I paid extra for rush shipping, $127.85. When the shirts arrived, I opened the box and laid them out on my dining room table. 7 of them were teal blue. Mine was turquoise, a completely different shade. I stared at it for a long moment, then checked my order confirmation. I'd selected teal blue for all 8. Someone at the company had made a mistake. I thought about calling to complain, but the trip was only 3 weeks away. There wasn't time to reorder. I folded mine and put it in my suitcase anyway. As the trip approached, I noticed something strange. No one was talking to me about it. Dominic didn't call to ask what to pack. Helena didn't text to confirm flight times. Emma didn't ask me questions about sea turtles or volcanoes, even though she'd been obsessed with ocean animals for months. I told myself they were just busy. People have lives. They're excited but distracted. But on February 7th, 3 days before the trip, I sent a text to the family group chat. Fiona, 2:14 p.m. Quick reminder, our flight is this Saturday at 10:45 a.m. Please arrive at the airport by 8:30 a.m. to allow time for check-in and security. Don't forget sunscreen. I watched the 3 dots appear under Helena's name. Then they disappeared. No one responded. At 6:30 p.m., I tried again. Fiona, 6:32 p.m. Also, I have the villa check-in info if anyone needs it. And Emma, Grandma packed you a special surprise for the plane. Still nothing. That night I called Dominic. It rang 4 times, then went to voicemail. I left a message. Hi, sweetheart, it's Mom. Just wanted to check in about Saturday. Call me back when you get a chance. Love you. He didn't call back. On February 9th, 2023 at 11:02 p.m., my phone buzzed on the kitchen table. I was in the living room, folding the last of my clothes into my suitcase. I'd packed carefully. 2 sundresses, a pair of sandals, a cardigan for the plane, a sun hat, my turquoise shirt that didn't quite match the others. I'd also packed a framed photo of Terrence, the honeymoon one, where he's wearing that ridiculous bedsheet cape. I wanted it on the table for our first dinner together in Hawaii. I heard the buzz and walked to the kitchen. The screen was lit up. Dominic, Mom, need to talk about the trip. My stomach dropped. I picked up the phone and typed. What's wrong? 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Then the message came through. Dominic, Helena and I talked, and we think maybe this trip should just be for, well, it's complicated. Her parents have never been to Hawaii, and it's a lot of people already. You understand, right? You've already been so generous. This is your gift to us. We'll take lots of pictures for you. I read it 3 times. Then I read it again. This is your gift to us. We'll take lots of pictures for you. I stood in the kitchen holding my phone, and for the first time in 3 years and 10 months, I felt something crack inside me. Not sadness, not anger. Clarity. I typed. I see. Then I set the phone down and walked slowly to my office. I turned on my old Dell laptop and waited for it to boot up. The fan whirred. The screen blinked to life. I opened my email and searched for Paradise Stays Hawaii. The confirmation email appeared. Subject, booking confirmation, Lani Kai Estate. From reservations at Paradise Stay. Hawaii.com. Date, December 18th, 2022. I clicked it open and scrolled down to the guest list section. Guests 8. 1. Dominic Lawrence Ashbourne. 2. Helena Marie Ashbourne 3. Emma Rose Ashbourne, child age 7. 4. Lucas James Ashbourne, child age 5. 5. Patricia Ann Thornberry 6. Richard James Thornberry 7. Celeste Marie Crawford 8. Ryan Mitchell. I stared at the screen. My name wasn't there. I searched for Hawaiian Airlines. Subject flight confirmation, SAC to HNL. From bookings at hawaiianairlines.com. Date December 20th, 2022. I opened it. Scrolled to the passenger list. Passengers 8. 1. Ashbourne/Dominic L. 2. Ashbourne/Helena M. 3. Ashbourne/Emma R. 4. Ashbourne/Lucas J. 5. Thornberry/Patricia A. 6. Thornberry/Richard J. 7. Crawford/Celeste M. 8. Mitchell/Ryan 8 names. Not mine. I clicked through every other confirmation. The van rental, the luau, the snorkeling tour, the catamaran cruise. Every single one listed 8 guests. None of them listed Fiona Rose Ashbourne. I'd planned this trip. I'd saved for this trip. I'd paid for this trip. And I'd never been invited. I closed the email tab and opened a web browser. My hands were shaking. Not with fear, but with something colder. Something sharper. I typed Helena Ashbourne Instagram into the search bar. Her profile appeared. At Helena Marie Living. Public account. 3,847 followers. I scrolled through her feed. December 18th, 2022. A photo of Helena, Patricia, and Celeste at a swimwear store. All 3 holding up bikinis and beach cover-ups, grinning at the camera. The caption read, Girls Trip Prep. Can't wait for February. Hashtag family vacation. Hashtag mother-daughter time. Hashtag island vibes. Hashtag blessed. 43 comments. I scrolled through them. At Jenna Reads. OMG, so jealous. Where are you going? At Helena Marie Living. Hawaii. At Megan F92. Who's paying for this fabulous trip? At Helena Marie Living. Right? At least she's good for something LOL. I read that comment 5 times. At least she's good for something LOL. She. Me. I closed the laptop. I walked to the kitchen and poured myself a glass of water. My hands were still shaking, but my mind was suddenly perfectly clear. They hadn't forgotten to include me. They deliberately excluded me, and they'd been planning it since December, since the day I made the announcement. While I was ordering welcome baskets and booking wheelchair-accessible vans for Patricia's bad knee, they were shopping for swimsuits and laughing about how I was good for something. While I was packing Emma's surprise gift, a stuffed sea turtle with her name embroidered on the shell, they were finalizing an 8-person guest list that didn't include the person who paid for everything. I looked at my phone. The screen was still lit up with Dominic's message. "You've already been so generous. This is your gift to us." I picked up the phone and opened my banking app. Account, Hawaii Family Fund balance, $21,847.50. Status, active linked payment methods. 6. I clicked on account settings. I clicked on manage transactions. And there, at the bottom, was a small toggle switch that said, freeze all outgoing payments. I stared at it. Then I thought about Terrence. I thought about the beach, the sunset, the promise. I thought about 3 years and 10 months of skipped meals, canceled subscriptions, late-night tutoring sessions, and double pairs of socks in a freezing house. I thought about Helena's comment. At least she's good for something, LOL. I thought about my son's text. This is your gift to us. And I clicked the switch. A pop-up appeared. Are you sure you want to freeze all transactions? All linked payment methods will be suspended immediately. This action cannot be undone without account holder authorization. I clicked yes, freeze all transactions. Another message appeared. Transaction freeze activated. All scheduled payments have been suspended. Linked cards will be declined if used. I closed the app. I turned off my phone. And for the first time in 4 years, since the day Terrence died and left me alone in this house, I smiled. I woke up at 5:47 a.m. on February 10th, 2023, the day they were supposed to leave for Hawaii. I hadn't slept well. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that Instagram comment. At least she's good for something, LOL. I saw the guest list with 8 names that weren't mine. I saw Dominic's text. This is your gift to us. I got out of bed and went to the kitchen. The house was cold. I still kept the thermostat at 62 degrees, even though I didn't need to save money anymore. Some habits are hard to break. I made coffee, the same cheap brand I'd been buying for 3 years. Folgers, $8.99 for a 30-ounce canister at Safeway. I'd trained myself to like it. While the coffee brewed, I picked up my phone. 17 missed calls, 12 from Dominic, 3 from Helena, 2 from a number I didn't recognize, 11 text messages. I opened them in order. Dominic, 6:47 a.m. Mom, are you awake? Dominic, 7:03 a.m. Mom, please call me. Something's wrong with the account. Dominic, 7:15 a.m. The airline is saying the tickets aren't confirmed. Can you check? Helena, 7:22 a.m. Fiona, we're trying to check in and there's an issue with payment. Please call Dominic. Dominic, 7:31 a.m. Mom, we're at the airport. They're saying the credit card was declined. What's going on? Dominic, 7:38 a.m. I tried calling the bank, but they said only you can authorize changes. Call me. Helena, 7:45 a.m. This is unacceptable. We have 8 people here, including children. Fix this now. Dominic, 7:52 a.m. Mom, I don't know what's happening, but please, the kids are crying. We're supposed to board in 30 minutes. Unknown number, 8:01 a.m. Mrs. Ashbourne, this is Patricia Thornberry. I don't know what my son-in-law did to upset you, but this is affecting innocent people. Please reconsider. Dominic, 8:14 a.m. We missed check-in. They moved us to standby. If we don't get on this flight, the whole trip is ruined. Is this what you want? Helena, 8:23 a.m. I can't believe you're doing this. You're punishing children because your feelings were hurt. Grow up, Fiona. I set the phone down. My hands were shaking. Not from fear, from something else. Something that felt uncomfortably close to nausea. I walked to the bathroom and looked at myself in the mirror. I was 65 years old. I had gray hair that I cut myself with kitchen scissors. I had wrinkles around my eyes and a small scar on my chin from where I'd fallen off a bike when I was 9. I was wearing one of Terrence's old flannel shirts and a pair of sweatpants with a hole in the knee. I looked like someone's grandmother. I looked harmless. I looked like someone who would never, ever do what I'd just done. What have I done? The thought came unbidden, sharp, and cold. Emma was 7 years old. She probably didn't understand what was happening. She just knew that Grandma had ruined the trip to see the sea turtles. Lucas was 5. He'd remember this. He'd remember that the vacation got canceled and somehow it was my fault. I gripped the edge of the sink. They excluded you, I told my reflection. They used you. They mocked you. But my reflection looked uncertain. They're children. Innocent children. I turned away from the mirror and went back to the kitchen. At 8:47 a.m., my phone rang. Not Dominic, not Helena, Margaret Williams, Maggie, my best friend since 1973, when we met in a community college biology class and bonded over our mutual hatred of dissecting frogs. She was 67 now, a widow like me. Her husband Robert had died of cancer in 2018. I answered on the third ring. Maggie. Fee. What the hell is going on? I just got a very strange call from Dominic asking if I knew how to reach you. I closed my eyes. What did you tell him? I told him I'd try calling you. Fee, what happened? And just like that, the whole story came pouring out. The trip, the planning, the savings, the text message, the Instagram comment, the guest list with 8 names, the freeze. When I finished, there was a long silence. Then Maggie said very quietly, "Those absolute bastards." I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. "Maggie, I feel sick. The kids—" "Stop," she said, her voice sharp. "Stop right there. Did Dominic apologize?" "No." "Did Helena?" She called me immature. "Then you did the right thing, Fee. Listen to me very carefully. You didn't ruin that trip. They did. The moment they decided you weren't family, the moment they laughed about you being good for something, the moment your own son sent you a text instead of having the guts to call you and say it to your face. But Emma has 2 parents who made a choice, a cruel, selfish choice, and now they're facing the consequences. That's not on you, honey. That's on them." I sat down at the kitchen table. I keep thinking about what Terrence would say. You know what Terry would say. He'd tell you that kindness without respect is just servitude. He told you that exact thing when your mother-in-law tried to move in without asking, remember? I did remember. It was 1987. Terrence's mother had announced she was selling her house and moving into our spare bedroom, and Terrence had sat me down and said, "Fee, my mother doesn't respect you, and I won't let her treat you like the help in your own home." He'd told her no. She'd been furious. She didn't speak to us for 2 years, but he'd been right. "What do I do now?" I asked. "You sit tight," Maggie said. "You do not unfreeze that account. You do not apologize. You do not cave. And if Dominic wants to talk like an adult, he knows where to find you. But Fee, he has to come to you. Not with demands, with an apology." "What if he doesn't?" "Then you'll know exactly where you stand, and you'll move forward from there." After we hung up, I sat at the table for a long time, looking at my phone. At 9:23 a.m., another text came through. Dominic. "We're on standby for the 2:15 p.m. flight. If we get on, we'll still make it work. But Mom, when we get back, we need to have a serious conversation about boundaries." Boundaries. He wanted to talk to me about boundaries. I didn't respond. Over the next 72 hours, I watched the money come back. I didn't call anyone. I didn't explain. I simply let the automatic systems do what they were designed to do, process refunds when payments failed. February 10th, 4:37 p.m. Email from Hawaiian Airlines. "Your booking has been canceled due to payment failure. Refund of $5,237.60 will be processed within 7 to 10 business days." February 11th, 9:12 a.m. Email from Paradise Stays, Hawaii. "We regret that your reservation for Lanikai Estate has been canceled. As per our cancellation policy, a $1,200 processing fee will be retained. Refund of $7,342 will be processed to your original payment method." February 11th, 2:44 p.m. Email from Alamo Car Rental. "Your reservation has been canceled. Full refund of $453.80 will be processed within 5 to 7 business days." February 12th, 11:03 a.m. Email from Island Luau Experiences. "Booking canceled. Refund of $720 processing." February 12th, 3:28 p.m. Email from Hanoma Bay Tours. "Reservation canceled. Refund of $560 processing." February 13th, 8:51 a.m. Email from Sunset Sales, Hawaii. Catamaran cruise canceled. Refund of $640 processing. I kept a running tally in a notebook. Flights, $5,237.60. Villa minus fee, $7,342. Van rental, $453.80. Luau, $720. Snorkeling, $560. Catamaran, $640. Total refunds, $14,953.40. Original balance, $21,847.50. Lost to cancellation fees, $1,200. Remaining spent, T-shirts, welcome baskets, $1,694.10. New balance, $19,647.50. Nearly $20,000 back in my account. My money, not theirs, mine. The email on February 13th, 2023 at 7:04 p.m., an email arrived from Dominic. The subject line read, "We need to talk about what you owe us." I stared at it for a full minute before opening it. Mom, Helena, and I have had some time to process what happened this weekend, and we need to address this situation. First, let me say that we understand you felt excluded from the trip. That wasn't our intention. We thought you'd be happy to give this to us as a gift, a way to honor Dad's memory by sharing it with the next generation. We didn't think you'd actually want to come, given your age and health considerations. However, your actions were extreme and frankly financially damaging. Because the Hawaii trip fell through at the last minute, we scrambled to salvage the kids' vacation week. We booked a last-minute trip to Disneyland and had to put it all on our credit cards: hotel, park tickets, food, everything. Total cost, $3,187.42. Additionally, when we originally discussed the Hawaii trip with you in December, we contributed $2,000 toward initial planning costs. You may not remember this, but we have records. We believe it's fair to ask for that amount back, since the trip didn't happen. So here's what we're proposing. You reimburse us for our Disneyland expenses, $3,187.42, plus our original contribution, $2,000, for a total of $5,187.42. We think this is more than reasonable, given the circumstances. We're willing to move past this incident if you make this right. Otherwise, Helena and I need to set some boundaries going forward. The kids have been asking why Grandma Fiona made them miss Hawaii, and we're not sure how to answer that question. We'd prefer not to damage your relationship with them, but we also can't shield you from the consequences of your choices. Let us know your decision by Friday, February 16th. Dominic, I read it 3 times. Then I read it again. We contributed $2,000 toward initial planning costs. A lie. A complete, provable lie. Every penny had come from my account. I had the bank statements to prove it. Given your age and health considerations, I was 65, not 95. I walked 3 miles every morning. I had no health problems except occasional joint pain. We're willing to move past this incident if you make this right. Like I was the one who needed to make something right. The kids have been asking why Grandma Fiona made them miss Hawaii. Because you told them that. Because you made me the villain in a story where I was the victim. I closed the email. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened a new browser window and searched for Group Travel Hawaii Women. I took out the notebook where I'd been tracking refunds and flipped to a clean page. At the top, I wrote, "Women who deserve to be seen." Then I started making calls. "Maggie, it's me again." "Fee, you okay?" "Better than okay." "Maggie, have you ever been to Hawaii?" A pause. "Fee, I've never been anywhere except Reno for my cousin's wedding in 1989. Why?" "How would you like to go with me next month?" Silence. "Fee, what are you talking about? I have almost $20,000 sitting in an account. Money I saved to take people who don't value me on a trip they excluded me from. I'm not giving it to them. I'm not keeping it. I'm using it. For women like us. Women who've spent their whole lives giving and never receiving. Women who deserve to be seen. Will you come?" I could hear her breathing on the other end of the line. Then, very quietly, "Are you serious?" "Completely." "Fee, I don't know what to say." "Say yes, Maggie. Please say yes." "Yes. God, yes. When do we leave?" Dorothy Dot answered on the first ring. "Fiona, is everything all right?" Dot and I had known each other since our sons were in Little League together in the 90s. Her husband left her in 1994 for his 28-year-old secretary. She raised 4 kids alone on a receptionist's salary. She still wore her wedding ring. Everything's fine, Dot. Actually, I'm calling with a question. Do you have a valid passport? A passport, Fiona? I've never left California. Why on earth would I need? Because we're going to Hawaii. You, me, Maggie, and a few other women. All expenses paid. 1 week. Beach, ocean, sunshine. What do you say? Fiona Rose Ashbourne, what are you talking about? I explained everything. The trip, the betrayal, the refunds, the decision. When I finished, Dot was crying. You'd do that? For me? You raised 4 kids alone, Dot. You worked 2 jobs for 15 years. You taught yourself how to fix cars because you couldn't afford a mechanic. You deserve this. I don't know what to say. Say you'll pack a swimsuit. She laughed through her tears. I'll pack a swimsuit. Barb had been taking care of her younger brother David for 4 years. David had early onset Alzheimer's and lived in a memory care facility. Barb visited him every single day and slept on a cot next to his bed 3 nights a week. Fiona, I can't leave David. The facility has excellent staff, Barb. You told me yourself they're wonderful with him. But what if he asks for me and I'm not there? He asks for you now and you're at home asleep. Barb, when was the last time you took a day off? Silence. 4 years ago, when David was first diagnosed. Then it's time. 1 week. That's all I'm asking. 1 week to remember that you're allowed to rest. Her voice broke. I don't know if I remember how. Then let's find out together. I made 3 more calls that night. Ruth Henderson, 69, retired librarian, never married, never saw the ocean. Alice Montgomery, 66, widow with no children, volunteers 7 days a week at an animal shelter because going home to an empty house hurts too much. And 1 more call, the most important one. Grace was Terrence's younger sister. We'd been close once. She was the maid of honor at our wedding. But after Terrence died, Dominic had made it clear that maintaining extended family relationships wasn't a priority. Grace hadn't been told about the funeral until 3 days after it happened. Helena's decision. Immediate family only. I hadn't spoken to her in almost 3 years. She answered on the second ring. Fiona? Her voice was tentative, uncertain, like she couldn't believe I was really calling. Hi, Grace. Is everything okay? Is Dominic? Dominic is fine. Grace, I'm calling because I owe you an apology. I should have called you sooner. I should have called you 3 years ago. Terry would have been furious with me for letting this much time pass. I heard her breath catch. Fiona, you don't need to apologize. I know things have been complicated. They shouldn't have been. You're family. You're Terry's sister. And I let my son make me forget that. But I'm remembering now. Grace, do you have plans for next month? Next month? No, I don't think so. Why? Because I'm taking a trip to Hawaii, the place where Terry and I spent our honeymoon. And I can't think of anyone he'd want there more than you. She started crying. Oh, Fiona. Oh, honey, I would love that. I would love that so much. Then pack your bags, Grace. We're going home. I set down my phone and looked at my notebook. 6 women, 6 calls, 7 travelers total, including me. 7 women who'd spent their lives being overlooked. 7 women who deserved to be seen. On February 14th, Valentine's Day, I sat at my kitchen table with my notebook open and my laptop glowing in front of me. 7 names. 1. Fiona Rose Ashbourne, 65-2. Margaret Williams, 67 3rd. Dorothy Patterson, 71 4th. Barbara Sullivan, 63 5th. Ruth Henderson, 69 6th. Alice Montgomery, 66 7th. Grace Bennett, 77 women. 7 stories of being overlooked, underestimated, used up. I opened the Paradise Stays Hawaii website and booked the same villa, Lani Kai Estate, March 15th to 22nd, 2023. 4 bedrooms, beachfront, $8,542. I booked 7 round-trip tickets from Sacramento to Honolulu, $4,582.90. I booked a rental van, $453.80. I didn't book the luau or the snorkeling tour or the catamaran cruise. This time we'd decide together what we wanted to do. This time everyone would be included. Total cost, $13,578.70. Remaining in account, $6,068.80. I closed the laptop and looked at the framed photo of Terrence on the mantel. "We're going, Terry," I whispered. "All of us. And this time, it's going to be exactly what you wanted." Ohana. Real Ohana. My phone buzzed. A text from Dominic. Dominic, 9:47 p.m. "It's been 48 hours. We need your answer by tomorrow. Are you going to do the right thing?" I looked at the message for a long moment. Then I deleted it without responding. And I went to bed with a clear conscience for the first time in months. Over the next 4 weeks, I didn't hear from Dominic except for one more email on February 28th, repeating his demand for $5,187.42. I didn't respond to that one either. Instead, I spent my time preparing. I ordered 7 matching teal carry-on bags from Amazon, $23.99 each. This time, we'd all match. No one would be in the wrong color. I packed carefully. Sundresses, sandals, sunscreen, and Terrence's photo, wrapped in bubble wrap and nestled between my clothes. On March 14th, the night before we left, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed thinking about what tomorrow would bring. 7 women who barely knew each other, brought together by loneliness and exclusion, flying across an ocean to find something we'd all been missing. Family. Real family. The kind that shows up. We met at the departures terminal at 7:30 a.m. 7 women, ages 63 to 71, standing in a cluster near the Hawaiian Airlines check-in counter with matching teal carry-on bags. Maggie arrived first, wearing a sun hat she'd bought specifically for the trip. Dot came next, clutching her passport like it was made of gold. Barb showed up with red eyes. She'd said goodbye to David that morning and he hadn't recognized her. Ruth wore a dress with flowers on it. Alice brought a small urn in her purse, her dog Cooper's ashes. She wanted to scatter them in the ocean. And Grace. Grace arrived last, wearing a necklace I recognized immediately, a small silver anchor on a chain. Terrence had given it to her for her 30th birthday in 1984. She'd kept it all these years. When she saw me, she started crying. I hugged her and whispered, "He would be so happy you're here." At 8:15 a.m., we checked in. 7 boarding passes printed without issue. 7 seats confirmed. 12A through 12G, all in the same row. At 9:30 a.m., we boarded the plane. As I settled into seat 12D, I pulled out my phone and took a photo of all of us squeezed together in the row, grinning like teenagers on spring break. I almost posted it to social media. Then I thought better of it. This wasn't for performance. This wasn't for likes or comments or proving a point. This was for us. I put my phone away and reached for Grace's hand. The plane took off at 10:47 a.m., 2 minutes late, but we didn't care. We were going to Hawaii. The villa was exactly as beautiful as the photos promised. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the ocean. A wraparound deck with comfortable chairs. 4 bedrooms, each with its own bathroom. A kitchen with a gas range and granite countertops. And everywhere, the sound of waves. We stood on the deck together as the sun began to set, and Ruth said very quietly, "I didn't know the world could look like this." That night, we ordered pizza from a local place called Haliwa Joe's. $87.43 for 3 large pizzas, garlic knots, and a salad. We ate on the deck with paper plates and plastic cups filled with wine from the bottle Maggie had packed in her suitcase. No fancy luau, no private chef, no itinerary. Just 7 women, sitting together, watching the sky turn pink and gold. Alice raised her glass. "To Fiona, for remembering us." "To all of us," I corrected, "for being worth remembering." We clinked our plastic cups together and drank cheap wine under an endless Hawaiian sky. On the 4th night, after dinner, I brought out the photograph. I'd had it enlarged and framed before we left. Terrence on the beach in 1982, that white sheet draped over his sunburned shoulders, grinning like he'd just discovered the secret to happiness. I set it in the center of the dining table. Then I brought out 7 candles. Tall white pillar candles in glass holders, $4.99 each from Target. "I want to do something," I said. "If you'll humor me." The women gathered around the table. I lit the first candle and placed it next to Terrence's photo. "This one is for my husband, for the man who taught me that love isn't about possession. It's about partnership. It's about showing up. He showed up every single day for 43 years, and I miss him more than I know how to say. My voice cracked. Grace reached over and squeezed my hand. I handed the second candle to Maggie. Your turn. Light it for someone you've lost, or for someone you've found, or for yourself. Whatever feels right. Maggie lit her candle with shaking hands. This is for Robert, she said. My husband. He died of pancreatic cancer in 2018. Our kids were too busy to visit him in hospice. They said they'd come next weekend for 3 months straight. He died on a Tuesday afternoon, and I was the only one there. This candle is for him, and for the version of me that died with him, the woman who thought her worth was measured by how much her children needed her. She set the candle down and wiped her eyes. Dot went next. This is for the woman I was before my husband left, the one who believed in vows, who thought 30 years of marriage meant something. I haven't been her in a long time, but maybe she's still in here somewhere. Maybe she deserves a light too. Barb lit her candle and said, This is for David, my baby brother, the one who used to protect me from bullies on the playground. He doesn't remember me anymore, but I remember him. And I'm lighting this because even though he's still alive, I'm allowed to grieve who he used to be. Ruth's candle was for her mother, who died when Ruth was 17 and never got to see her daughter graduate from college or open her own library. Alice's candle was for Cooper, her Labrador retriever, who'd been her only family for 12 years. Grace was the last to light hers. She held the candle for a long moment, looking at Terrence's photograph. This is for my brother, she said, her voice steady. Terry, the best man I ever knew. He was kind when kindness wasn't convenient. He was brave when it would have been easier to stay quiet. And he loved this woman, she gestured to me, with everything he had. I'm lighting this candle because he should be here, and because even though he's not, his love is. It's in every one of us at this table. She placed the candle next to his photo, and the 7 flames burned together, casting warm light across his smiling face. We stood there in silence, hands joined, 7 women who'd been forgotten by the world we'd spent our lives serving. And for the first time in longer than I could remember, I didn't feel invisible. On our 6th day, we walked to the beach at sunset. 7 women in varying stages of undress, some in swimsuits, some in sundresses, some in shorts and t-shirts, walking barefoot across warm sand toward the water. Alice carried Cooper's ashes in the small urn. When we reached the edge of the ocean, she knelt down and opened it. I don't know what to say, she whispered. Then don't say anything, Maggie suggested. Just let him go. Alice poured the ashes into the water. The waves took them immediately, pulling them out to sea in gentle swirls of gray and white. She sat back on her heels and cried. We all cried. Not for Cooper, though we were sad for Alice's loss, but for everything we'd been holding. All the grief we'd been told wasn't worth expressing. All the losses we'd been expected to get over because life goes on, and you need to be strong. Ruth said, I never told anyone this, but after my mother died, I used to go to the library every day and read her favorite books, just to feel close to her. I did that for 2 years. My father told me I was being morbid, that I needed to move on. So I stopped, but I never stopped missing her. I still set a place for Robert at dinner sometimes, Maggie admitted. Just a plate and a fork. I eat alone, but it feels less lonely if his spot is there. Dot said, I wear my wedding ring because I earned it. 30 years of cooking his meals and raising his children and keeping his house. He walked away, but I didn't. This ring is mine. One by one we shared our secrets, the small, strange ways we carried our grief, the ways we'd been taught to hide it, and in sharing them, we made them lighter. We stayed on that beach until the stars came out. 7 women, sitting in a circle in the sand, holding space for each other's pain. No one told us to smile. No one told us to be grateful. No one told us we were being too much. We were exactly enough. We landed in Sacramento at 8:43 p.m., exhausted and sunburned and happy. As we said goodbye at baggage claim, Ruth hugged me and whispered, Thank you for seeing me. Barb said, I'm going to take 1 day off a week from now on, to remember I'm allowed. Alice had already made plans to adopt another dog. Cooper would want me to, she said. Grace was the last to leave. She held both my hands and said, Terry chose well. He always said you were the strongest person he knew. Now I understand. After they were all gone, I drove home alone. The house was dark and cold. I turned on the lights and the heat and made myself a cup of tea. Then I sat down at my kitchen table and checked my email for the first time in a week. There were 43 unread messages. Most were spam. A few were from my bank, confirming the Hawaii expenses. 3 were from Dominic. I opened the most recent one, dated March 21st, 2023. Subject: I don't understand, Mom. It's been over a month since we last spoke. Helena says I should give you space, but I'm worried about you. I saw on your credit card statement, you're still listed as an authorized user on my account from when I helped you with emergencies, that you charged flights and accommodations to Hawaii. Did you go? By yourself? Mom, if you needed a vacation, you could have just said so. We would have understood. You didn't need to cancel our trip and then go alone. Helena and I have decided we need some boundaries. The kids keep asking about you, and we don't know what to tell them. Emma drew you a picture for your birthday, but we're not sure if we should send it. I think we need family therapy. All of us. To work through this. Let me know if you're open to that. Dominic, I read it twice. Then I deleted it. I didn't respond. 2 months after we returned from Hawaii, a letter arrived in my mailbox. Hand-addressed. A child's handwriting. No return address, but I recognized the street name. Dominic and Helena's neighborhood in Roseville. I opened it carefully. Inside was a single piece of paper folded in half. A drawing of a sea turtle in green and blue crayon. And beneath it, in careful third-grader printing, Dear Grandma Fiona, Daddy showed me pictures of you and Grandpa Terry in Hawaii when you were young. You looked really happy. I'm sorry we went without you. It was wrong. I asked Daddy why, and he said grown-up reasons, but that's a lie excuse. I think he was mean to you, and that's why you were sad. Can you teach me to make Grandpa's cranberry sauce? Mommy said it's too hard, but I want to learn. I love you. Emma P.S. Lucas says hi, but he's being a booger. I sat at the kitchen table and cried. Not sad tears, not angry tears. Relief. She saw me. My granddaughter saw me, and she knew something was wrong. I folded the letter carefully and put it in the drawer where I kept Terrence's important papers. His death certificate, our marriage license, the deed to the house. Then I picked up my phone and called Dominic. He answered on the 3rd ring. Mom? Hi, sweetheart. A long pause. Are you okay? We've been worried. I'm fine. Better than fine, actually. Dominic, I got Emma's letter. She wasn't supposed to mail that. Helena told her not to bother you. Well, I'm glad she didn't listen. Tell her I'd love to teach her the cranberry sauce recipe, but not at Helena's house. Here. At my house. Just Emma and me. Mom, I don't know if... I'm not negotiating, Dominic. If Emma wants to learn, she's welcome here. Anytime. You can drop her off and pick her up. You don't have to stay. Silence. Why are you doing this? Doing what? Punishing us. Shutting us out. We made a mistake, okay? We should have handled the Hawaii thing differently. But you canceled an entire vacation out of spite. I closed my eyes. Dominic, I need to tell you something, and I need you to really hear me. Are you listening? Yes. I didn't cancel that vacation out of spite. I canceled it because you told me I wasn't invited to a trip I planned, saved for, and paid for. You excluded me from a family vacation and then expected me to fund it anyway. You treated me like an ATM, like I was good for something. Those were Helena's words, by the way. I saw her Instagram post. Mom, let me finish. For 3 years, I saved every penny I could. I sold your father's things. I worked late nights teaching English to strangers. I froze in my own house to save on heating bills. And I did it because I thought I was building something. A memory. A moment where our family, our whole family, would come together and honor the man we both loved. My voice broke. But you didn't want me there, Dominic. You wanted my money. And when I realized that, I had to make a choice. I could keep funding my own exclusion, or I could use that money to remember what it feels like to be valued. I chose the latter, and I don't regret it. So you went to Hawaii without us. I went to Hawaii with 6 women who understand what it's like to be invisible. We scattered ashes and lit candles and cried together on a beach under the stars. We saw each other. Really saw each other. It was the most healing week of my life. He was quiet for a long time. Then, I'm sorry, Mom. For what specifically? For the text, for not calling you, for letting Helena make decisions about you without pushing back. And for taking you for granted, for assuming you'd always be there, always available, always willing to give without receiving. I exhaled slowly. Thank you. That means more than you know. Can we start over? We can start from here. But Dominic, things are going to be different. I'm not going to smile and agree when I'm being excluded. I'm not going to fund things I'm not part of. And I'm not going to accept breadcrumbs and call it a relationship. What do you want from us? Respect, honesty. And if Emma wants to come over on Saturday afternoon to learn how to make cranberry sauce, I want you to say yes. Okay, Saturday. I'll bring her at 2? Perfect. November 28th, 2023. Thanksgiving. I hosted Thanksgiving at my house for the first time in 5 years. The table was set for 12. The 7 women from Hawaii, Emma, Dominic, Helena, Lucas, and 1 empty chair for Terrence, with his photo in a frame at the place setting. Maggie and Dot arrived first, carrying pies. Barb brought her brother David, his first outing in months. Ruth and Alice came together. Grace brought flowers. At 2 p.m., Dominic's car pulled into the driveway. I watched from the window as he, Helena, and the kids got out. Helena was carrying a dish covered in foil. Emma was holding a small basket. When I opened the door, Emma ran to me and threw her arms around my waist. Grandma, I made the cranberry sauce, all by myself. Well, Daddy helped with the stove, but I did all the stirring. She pulled back the foil to show me. A perfect bowl of cranberry sauce with bits of orange zest visible on top. My eyes filled with tears. It's perfect, sweetheart. Your grandpa would be so proud. Helena stepped forward, hesitant. Fiona, I brought green bean casserole. I know it's not much, but it's perfect, I said. Come in, all of you. We sat down to eat at 3:30 p.m. 12 people around a table that was almost too small, elbows bumping, passing dishes, talking over each other. Before we ate, I stood up. I want to say something. A year ago, I thought family was about blood, about obligation, about maintaining peace at any cost. But this year taught me something different. Family is about showing up. It's about seeing each other. It's about making space for everyone at the table. Not just the convenient people, not just the easy people, but all of us. I looked at the 7 women, at Grace, at Emma, at Dominic. So thank you for being here, for showing up, for making space. I raised my glass. To Ohana, the real kind. To Ohana, they echoed. We drank, and then we ate cranberry sauce that an 8-year-old made, and it was the best thing I'd ever tasted. 6 months later, May 14th, 2024, the travel fund still exists. Current balance, $11,847.32. I've rebuilt it slowly, steadily, the same way I built it the first time. But this time, it's not for a single trip. It's for a purpose. Last month, I took Barb and her brother David to the coast for a weekend. It cost $487.90. Next month, I'm taking Ruth to visit her mother's grave in Oregon, her first trip there in 40 years. Estimated cost, $320. In August, all 7 of us are going back to Hawaii. Grace is bringing Terrence's ashes, and we're going to scatter them on the beach where he and I slept under the stars in 1982. Emma has started coming over every Saturday. We bake together. We talk. She tells me about school and her friends and the boy in her class who pulls her hair. Dominic and I talk once a week, sometimes more. It's not perfect. Helena is still learning how to include me without resentment. But we're trying. That's all I ever wanted, for them to try. On my 66th birthday, May 14th, 2024, I got a card in the mail from all 7 women. Inside, they'd each written a message. Maggie, you taught me I'm allowed to rest. Dot, you taught me I'm allowed to say no. Barb, you taught me I'm allowed to grieve. Ruth, you taught me I'm allowed to dream. Alice, you taught me I'm allowed to start over. Grace, you taught me family isn't about blood, it's about love. And at the bottom, in Emma's careful handwriting, you taught me cranberry sauce, and also that grandmas are heroes. I put the card on my refrigerator, next to the photo from Hawaii. 7 women grinning on a beach, arms around each other, standing in front of an endless ocean. Sometimes late at night, I look at that photo and I think about the text message that started it all. You've already done your part by paying. And I smile. Because they were wrong. I hadn't done my part. I was just getting started. I learned that at 65, the opposite of love isn't hate. It's use. When people love you, they see you. When they use you, you disappear. The greatest victory wasn't the trip to Hawaii. It wasn't the money I kept. It wasn't even watching my son finally understand what he'd done. The greatest victory was remembering my own worth and teaching 7 other women to remember theirs.